Picture this. You wake up one morning, turn on the news, and hear that a massive storm is barreling toward your city. You grab your keys, drive to the nearest grocery store, and find this: empty shelves. No bread, no milk, no canned goods, nothing but scattered packaging and a line of panicked strangers fighting over the last few items. Now imagine that same helpless feeling, but it isn't a storm. It's a job loss that wiped out your savings, a medical bill that drained your account overnight, a supply chain breakdown that nobody saw coming. Here's the uncomfortable truth most people never want to face. These situations are not rare. They are not movie plots. They happen to real families in real towns every single year. And the people who make it through without panic, without desperation, without going hungry, they all have one thing in common. They prepared before the chaos hit. So today, we are going to fix that for you. By the time this video is done, you are going to know exactly which 20 foods belong in your long-term pantry, precisely how long each one lasts, and, this is the part most people get completely wrong, the specific storage mistakes that could silently destroy everything you've built. And trust me, you want to stick around for that last part. Some of the most well-meaning storage habits out there can turn your food into a brick, invite dangerous bacteria, or slash your shelf life in half without you ever knowing. Welcome to Crisis Horizon, where we prepare before the panic sets in. If this kind of content matters to you, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. This community is built for people who take their family safety seriously. Now, let's get into it. Let's start with the absolute backbone of any serious long-term pantry, the foods that will carry you through months of disruption on nothing but solid nutrition and staying power. First up is white rice, and if you only take one thing from this video, let it be this. White rice is arguably the single greatest long-term storage food on the planet. We're talking a shelf life of 25 to 30 years when stored correctly. Jasmine, basmati, even plain long-grain white rice, all of them qualify. The method that serious preppers swear by is Mylar bags with oxygen absorbers, sealed tight and dropped inside 5-gallon food-grade buckets. That combination cuts off the air, blocks the light, and keeps moisture out completely. Now, you might be wondering, what about brown rice? It's healthier, right? And yes, nutritionally, brown rice does have an edge. But here's the problem. Brown rice contains natural oils in the bran layer, and those oils go rancid. We're talking as little as 6 months before that brown rice smells off and loses its value entirely. For true long-term storage, white rice is the only choice. Save the brown rice for your weekly rotation, not your emergency supply. Moving right along, dried beans. If white rice is the carbohydrate king of the prepper pantry, dried beans are the protein backbone. Black beans, kidney beans, pinto beans, lentils, all of them are packed with protein and fiber, incredibly versatile and shockingly affordable. A single bag of dried beans from the grocery store costs almost nothing, and with proper storage, those same beans can last 20 to 30 years. The key is getting them out of their original store packaging as soon as possible. That thin plastic bag is not designed for long-term storage. It degrades over time, and pests can work their way through it far too easily. Transfer them into airtight containers, Mylar bags, or sealed glass jars, and they will outlast almost anything else in your pantry. Next, let's talk about oats, specifically rolled oats and steel-cut oats. Oatmeal that's overlooked in a lot of prepper lists because it seems too simple, too ordinary, but that's exactly what makes it brilliant. It's a warm, comforting, nutritious breakfast option that requires minimal preparation, and when stored properly in sealed glass jars or Mylar bags, it can last anywhere from 15 to 30 years. The biggest threats to your oat supply are moisture and pantry moths. Both of these can devastate an improperly sealed container quickly. Keep your oats dry, keep them sealed, and they will be there for you long after most other foods have expired. Now let's talk about pasta. Dry pasta is one of the easiest wins in long-term storage. Most varieties can last 20 to 30 years, and unlike some of the other items on this list, pasta needs very little convincing for most families. People already love it. However, there is a storage mistake that catches a lot of people off guard. If you are using Mylar bags for something like spaghetti or linguine, those sharp, broken ends can puncture right through the bag, breaking the seal and letting air and moisture in. For long, sharp pasta shapes, glass jars with vacuum sealing are your best friend. Rounded shapes like elbow macaroni, orzo, or penne are perfectly safe in Mylar bags and buckets. No puncture risk, no problems. Now here's where a lot of people stop thinking and just buy white flour, assuming it's a long-term staple. It isn't. White flour has a shelf life of roughly 2 years before the natural oils within it begin to break down and go rancid. 2 years is fine for rotation stock, but it is nowhere near long-term storage territory. The solution that serious long-term preppers turn to is wheat berries. These are the whole, hard kernels that flour is milled from, and when stored in Mylar bags, they will genuinely outlast you. Decades of stable, nutritious storage. The investment you'll want to make alongside them is a hand-cranked or electric wheat grinder, which lets you mill fresh flour on demand as you need it.
There's a learning curve to baking with fresh milled flour. The texture and density are different from what you're used to, but that's exactly why you should practice now, while it's optional, rather than figuring it out under pressure. Rounding out this section are baking powder and baking soda. These two get treated as afterthoughts, and that's a mistake. Without active leavening agents, you cannot make proper bread, biscuits, or cakes, and in a long-term scenario, baked goods are one of the most powerful morale boosters you have. The catch is that baking powder and baking soda have a relatively short shelf life of 1 to 2 years before they lose their potency and stop working effectively. There's no dramatic spoilage, they don't go bad in a dangerous way, they simply stop doing their job. Store them away from any moisture source, check them regularly, and rotate them into your active kitchen supply before they pass their window. Now that we've covered your calorie foundation, it's time to talk about the layer that most people dramatically understock, the proteins, dairy alternatives, and flavor essentials that keep your body functional and your mental health intact when things get hard. Let's start with powdered milk. When a storm is coming and every parent in town is racing to the store for milk and bread, you will be sitting comfortably at home because you already have what you need. No-fat powdered milk can last 20 to 25 years in proper storage, making it one of the most reliable dairy alternatives available. There's an important distinction to make here, though. Full-fat powdered milk has a dramatically shorter shelf life, roughly around a year, because the fat content eventually goes rancid just like it does in brown rice and whole wheat flour. For long-term storage, no fat is the only version worth buying in bulk. Canned meats are next, and this is a category where a lot of people talk themselves out of buying enough. Commercially canned chicken, beef, tuna, and salmon are nutritional powerhouses, and here's something the food industry doesn't exactly advertise loudly. Those best buy dates printed on the cans are largely conservative estimates meant to protect the manufacturer, not accurate expiration markers. As long as a can is not dented, rusted, or swollen, and swollen is the one you absolutely never ignore, the contents inside remain safe and nutritious well beyond the printed date. For people who home can their own meats, the same principle applies. Nutritional value is at its peak in the first year, and it does degrade slowly over time, but the food remains safe for years when properly sealed. Powdered eggs deserve far more attention than they typically get. Fresh egg prices are notoriously volatile. Anyone who has been to a grocery store in the last few years knows exactly what that looks like, and powdered eggs solve that problem entirely. With a shelf life of 10 to 15 years, they are a reliable long-term backup for scrambling, omelets, and especially baking. The texture when scrambled is slightly different from fresh eggs, and this catches people off guard when they try them for the first time under stress. The smarter approach is to cook with them now, while things are normal, so that when the time comes, powdered eggs are already a familiar ingredient in your kitchen rather than a strange last resort. Powdered peanut butter is one of those items that sounds like a compromise, but is actually a smart upgrade for long-term storage. Regular peanut butter is great for short-term rotation. It's a high-calorie, high-protein food that most families already love, but the high oil content means it goes rancid relatively quickly compared to what you need from a long-term pantry item. Powdered peanut butter, with the oils removed, can last 15 to 20 years in sealed storage. You can mix it with water to make a spread, blend it into smoothies, use it in baking, or mix it with oats and honey to make simple, high-protein snack balls. It's far more versatile than people assume. Now let's talk about the 3 forever foods: sugar, salt, and honey, because each of them comes with its own story and its own set of rules. Sugar, in its pure, dry form, will never go bad, period. It doesn't have a true expiration. However, there is a critical mistake you must avoid. Do not vacuum seal your sugar and do not use oxygen absorbers with it. This is one of those errors that seems logical on the surface, but produces a disastrous result. Removing the oxygen from sugar causes it to compress into a rock-solid brick that is genuinely difficult to break apart and nearly impossible to work with. All you need for sugar storage is a clean, airtight container that keeps moisture and pests out. That's it. No special equipment required. Salt follows the same forever food principle. It will last indefinitely. And like sugar, you should not remove the air or use oxygen absorbers. Stock a variety if you can. Iodized salt is important because it provides iodine, an essential nutrient that your body needs and that you may struggle to get from other shelf-stable foods. Sea salt and kosher salt are valuable for flavor and cooking versatility. A well-rounded salt supply covers both your nutritional needs and your culinary options. Honey is arguably the most impressive food in this entire list. Archaeologists have found honey in ancient Egyptian tombs that was still perfectly edible after thousands of years. The key is that you must use real 100% pure honey, not the cheap blends cut with corn syrup or other sweeteners. Those adulterants shorten the shelf life considerably and prevent honey from maintaining its indefinite stability. Over time, pure honey may crystallize and turn cloudy, and many people mistake this for spoilage. It isn't. Simply place the jar in warm water and the crystallization dissolves back into liquid. The honey is completely fine.
Finally, let's address cooking oils, because this is one of the most misunderstood categories in pantry prep. No oil is a 20-year storage item. There is no oil on the market that belongs in the same conversation as rice or honey when it comes to shelf life. Most standard oils, olive oil, vegetable oil, canola oil, will last about 1 to 2 years before going rancid. Coconut oil is the most stable option in this category and does hold up somewhat better, but it is still not a long-haul storage food. The correct approach with oils is frequent rotation. Keep them in the coolest, darkest part of your pantry. Buy amounts you will genuinely cycle through and replace them regularly. Having oil is essential. Cooking without fat is miserable and nutritionally limiting, but treat it as a rotation item, not a set-and-forget one. Here's where most preppers make their biggest mistake. They load up on grains and proteins, feel good about their progress, and completely neglect the foods that prevent something called appetite fatigue, the psychological and physical phenomenon where eating the same bland food day after day causes people to actually stop eating, even when they're hungry. It sounds extreme, but it is well documented and it's dangerous. This section is about making sure that doesn't happen to you. Canned vegetables are the straightforward starting point. Commercially canned corn, green beans, peas, and mixed vegetables carry a functional shelf life of 5 to 10 years. They're not glamorous, but they provide vital micronutrients that your body will miss quickly if your diet is nothing but grains and protein. Storage location matters enormously here. Keep them in a cool, dark, dry space. If your storage area has any moisture issues, even minor ones, keep a close eye on the cans for rust, because rust can compromise the seal and turn a perfectly good can of vegetables into a health hazard. Rotate these regularly and replace them as you use them. Dried fruits, raisins, apricots, cranberries, and figs, similar options, bring something to your pantry that almost nothing else does: natural sweetness and a psychological lift. After days of rice and beans, a handful of dried apricots is genuinely mood-altering in the best possible way. They can last 15 to 20 years in airtight storage, and they're rich in vitamins and natural sugars that provide quick energy. But here is a critical warning you need to take seriously. Do not use oxygen absorbers or vacuum sealing with dried fruits. Most dried fruits retain approximately 17% moisture content, and when you seal that moisture into an oxygen-free environment, you create the exact conditions in which botulism can develop. Botulism is odorless, tasteless, and potentially fatal. Simple airtight storage in a cool, dry location is all you need and all you should use. Dehydrated vegetables, particularly carrots and potatoes, are the unsung heroes of long-term food storage. They are extraordinarily lightweight and space-efficient, meaning you can store a large volume of nutrition in a relatively small footprint. Their shelf life ranges from 10 to 20 years depending on storage conditions. The real beauty of dehydrated vegetables is their ease of use. You don't need to soak them overnight or do any special preparation. Drop them directly into soups, stews, and broths during cooking, and they rehydrate on their own as everything simmers. This makes them incredibly practical in a scenario where you want to minimize effort and maximize nutrition at the same time. Now let's talk about what keeps people sane during hard times, because survival is not purely physical. Freeze-dried instant coffee can last 20 to 25 years in sealed storage, and for anyone who depends on caffeine to function, this is not a luxury item, it is a genuine necessity. Beyond the chemical reality of caffeine dependence, hot coffee in a difficult moment provides psychological comfort that is genuinely difficult to overstate. Even if you prefer fresh ground beans under normal circumstances, having several jars of quality instant coffee in your pantry ensures that one familiar comfort remains accessible regardless of what's happening around you. Bouillon cubes and powdered bouillon are the other great morale weapon of the long-term pantry. A bowl of plain white rice is fuel. A bowl of white rice simmered in rich chicken or beef broth is a meal. That distinction matters enormously over an extended period. Bouillon generally lasts 2 to 5 years, making it more of a rotation item than a forever food, but it should still be a permanent fixture on your shelf. If you have any health considerations to keep in mind, low-sodium versions are widely available and are generally the better long-term choice, since stress and physical exertion change how the body processes sodium. Spices and herbs are the final piece of the puzzle, and arguably the most underrated category in this entire list. There is a culinary phenomenon called appetite fatigue, and spices are the primary weapon against it. The same base ingredients, rice, beans, pasta, and canned meat, can taste like dozens of completely different meals depending on the spices you use. Cumin, chili powder, garlic powder, oregano, paprika, cinnamon, turmeric, each one transforms your food in a distinct direction. Most conventional wisdom says spices only last about a year in a regular kitchen cabinet, and that's roughly accurate for ground spices. But bulk spices stored in Mylar bags with oxygen absorbers, unlike dried fruits, spices are dry enough that this method is safe and effective, can maintain their potency for 5 years or more. Whole spices, like cinnamon sticks, whole cloves, or whole nutmeg, last even longer than their ground counterparts, so if you have the option, prioritize whole versions.
Before we close out, there are 3 principles that tie all of this together, and getting these right is what separates a functional food storage system from a collection of random cans that expire before you ever touch them. The first is the FIFO method, first in, first out. Every time you buy new groceries, the instinct is to stack them in front of whatever is already there. Resist that instinct. Pull the older stock forward, put the new items behind them, and always consume from the front. It sounds simple because it is, but consistently failing to do this is how people end up with expired food they never got around to using. The second is environmental control. The 4 enemies of stored food are air, light, moisture, and heat in that order. The ideal storage temperature for a long-term pantry is between 50 and 75 degrees Fahrenheit. Every degree above that range accelerates the degradation of your food, not catastrophically in the short term, but meaningfully over years and decades. If you live in a hot climate, prioritize your coolest interior space. Check your seals and lids regularly, and be realistic about the adjusted shelf lives of your most temperature-sensitive items. The third is diversity and labeling. Stocking 200 pounds of white rice feels productive, but it will not keep you healthy. Your body needs a balance of carbohydrates, protein, healthy fat, vitamins, and minerals, and your pantry needs to reflect that balance. Build across all the categories we've covered today: grains, legumes, proteins, dairy alternatives, fruits, vegetables, flavor builders, because nutrition is not one-dimensional, and neither should your storage be. And label everything. Every container, every bucket, every sealed bag, the contents and the date it was packed.
3 years from now, all those identical white buckets will look exactly the same. Your label will be the only thing standing between you and a complete guessing game. That's your foundation. 20 foods, proven methods, and the principles to keep everything working for years to come. Whether the emergency is a natural disaster that shuts down your city or a financial hit that makes grocery shopping a luxury, you now know exactly what to do about it. Build this gradually, build it smart, and build it before you need it, because the one thing you cannot stockpile is time. If this video helped you, do us a favor and hit that like button. It genuinely helps this channel reach more people who need this information. Subscribe to Crisis Horizon for more practical preparedness content, and we'll see you in the next one. Stay ready.